Uh, Hi. So this is a bit of a different video compared to my normal uploads, so I guess I have some explaining to do. Some of y'all may know me for uploading videos where I rank hundreds of FNF songs. I've always been a huge fan of making these. There's just something about placing the things I like in a numbered list, finding out what is the worst, what is the best, that I strangely find fun. There's just a sense of euphoria I get when finding out where these songs end up. There is one problem with these lists though. I don't really get the chance to explain why I like these songs, let alone why I like some more than others. It's an issue I've thought about for well over a year, sometime after I made my top 300 video. I couldn't simply go over every single song featured on those lists, as that would be an absolute chore to say the least. So I decided, hey, why not just go through certain FNF mods and make videos ranking the songs in their respective OSTs? I would still be able to do what I like, while also being able to fully express my opinions. While yes, that does mean having to also talk about the songs I don't like, it's a sacrifice I am willing to make. So without further ado, let's get into the first ever mod I will be covering on this channel. I hope you all enjoy this video, and I hope to do more of these in the future. Infernal Bout. I remember seeing a teaser for this mod when it was first announced. I thought it was going to be a cute, small mod featuring an iconic Mario character, nothing too crazy, but something I was willing to check out. Then I proceeded to hear nothing about it for over a year. But, when the mod did eventually release, yeah, wow, I was definitely blown away. When I think of regular Mario-styled FNF mods, aka ones that aren't creepypastas, I mostly think of ones that just consist of songs that are basically remixed covers of tracks from the original games. Infernal Bout, on the other hand, is something else entirely, and I am very much glad it is. After all, Bowser is one of my favorite characters from the series, and his music is a very big reason as to why, since his tracks are consistently a huge highlight in any game he's featured in. Yes, some of the songs are definitely inspired by some of these themes, but they don't feel completely derivative of their source material. Honestly, this mod is a prime example of how to blend the Mario aesthetic into the FNF style. So, in case you can't already tell, I have a strong positive opinion on this OST. So much so that even the worst of the soundtrack is still miles better than some of the worst songs in some of the more popular bigger mods. In fact, the overall high quality of these tracks made it quite easily my favorite mod during late 2023. Well, aside from a certain mod with a certain plumber, but I digress. Now, without further ado, let's get onto the list, starting with the D tier. These songs are basically ranked as low as they are due to a small number of glaring issues that greatly hindered their potential of being really good. So let's start with the worst song that this glorious mod has to offer. Like I just said, the songs that ended up this low are only here due to having at least one noticeable flaw that keeps me from thinking they're at least competent. So naturally, the last place spot is going to be for the one that I have the most gripes with. And in my opinion, no other song from this mod fits that description better than Flames. Yeah, so this is kind of a hot take, because apparently this is the most popular song of the main week, or at least according to the polls, despite the fact I never hear anyone talk about it. And to be honest, I can see why no one mentions it when talking about this mod. Like the majority of Bowser's main week, this song is really lackluster. Let me start with the positives, because I do have some for this song. For starters, I really like Bowser's chromatic. It fits the Koopa King really well, and this deep booming voice he has really helps the melody stick and resonate anytime it's used. I do like some of the melodies here, especially when Bowser and BF duet near the end of the song. It sounds quite good and is easily my favorite part of this track. There's also a moment early on when the two sing back and forth to each other, which sounds really nice as well. Or at least before it becomes really spammy. Alright, let me get into my issues. First off, there are several times where BF sounds extremely weird. Like, he hits several of these long notes where his voice goes completely deep, and it just does not fit him at all. As for the melodies, while I like the way they sound on their own, when using the song itself, they don't flow well with each other. It really does feel like the composer just threw stuff at the wall and hoped something would stick. What makes this feeling worse is the fact that the tempo is way faster than it really should be, where it's just jumping from melody to melody without giving the track any time to breathe, so it makes the whole song sound messy. Lastly, the instrumental. I really don't like this guitar. It's much louder compared to every other instrument used here, to the point where it's about as loud as the actual chromatics, making it stick out like a sore thumb. What's more, it plays the exact same melodies that Bowser and BF sing, so it ends up smothering one of the two characters and adding to the overall messiness of the track. Yeah, this is a really clunky song, to the point where I can't enjoy a single moment of it, not even during the parts that I would actually like.
So long, Bowser!
So long. Man, I'm a bit disappointed with this one. When I first saw this song, I thought it was going to be an absolute banger, only to be greatly proven wrong. That being said, this song still has a couple of pros. Once again, Bowser sounds amazing here, especially whenever his turns include any sort of slides or long notes, which there are plenty of in this song. There's also a lot I adore about this instrumental. A lot of Mario-related songs have used the N64 sound font before, but very few use the specific instruments that accompany Bowser's themes in Mario 64. And, to take it a step further, both the instrumental and some of the main melodies mimic the motifs of both Bowser's regular theme and his final boss theme of that game. They don't directly reference them, but you can tell there's some inspiration from those original songs. And as someone who's an absolute sucker when FNF songs do this, I greatly appreciate its usage here, especially since the final battle is one of my all-time favorite Bowser tracks to this day. That being said, I do have some issues with the other melodies in So Long, specifically when the song isn't clearly referencing its source material. A lot of them just end up being incredibly bland and forgettable, not really doing much to be interesting. For instance, after a minute into the song, there's this duet that Bowser and BF have, where one will sing the primary melody while the other is the backing chorus, and both sides sound really basic and empty, almost to a point where it feels broken and clunky. Also, this song feels way too calm. Like, the instrumental during the final third of the track sounds less like music befitting of this version of Bowser, and more like something you would hear in a waiting room before an important meeting. Lastly, the length. So Long is the second shortest song in the mod, only outlasting the tutorial song, and it's not even reaching 2 minutes. All in all, this one kinda just exists, ending as quickly as it began and ultimately being a disservice for what I consider to be the more sinister iterations of the Koopa King.
That is but a taste of our fury.
I'm going to be completely honest here. Fury was super close to being amazing, to the point where it's genuinely frustrating how good this song could have been. For starters, this intro is incredible. While yes, it's just a series of long notes, they do an excellent job of creating an ominous tone that oozes of suspense. Additionally, I adore that choir that plays in the instrumental. Choirs are some of my all-time favorite inclusions in any song, which is why I find it disappointing how little I see FNF mods use them. Thankfully, Infernal Bout is a huge exception to this. The rest of the song after this beginning portion is no slouch either. Both the instrumental and a lot of the melodies are extremely catchy, perfectly capturing the serious final boss feel of the song. And of course, I enjoy the inclusion of motifs of Bowser's themes from Mario 64, 3D World, and Bowser's Fury. I don't think I need to explain why they work so well here. So you might be wondering, after all the praise I gave this track, how did it end up as the third worst song in the mod? Well, it's because of one problem I have with it. You know, just this one crucial detail. Bowser's chromatic. Good God, what happened here? Look, I get wanting to give Bowser a different set of vocals for this song, both because it's a different form he turns into, and because the regular one is already used for over half of this mod's OST. But why is it that the version of Bowser where he becomes so pissed off that he goes on a kaiju-style rampage and causes natural disasters in his wake, the one where he sounds the most quiet? Not only does this chromatic just not fit him, it doesn't work musically either. It fits perfectly during the intro, yes, but the rest of the song is clearly trying to be very intense, and these vocals simply lack the power to enforce that tone, which leads to the song becoming very unsatisfying to listen to. It is a real shame that this track ended up dropping the ball this hard, especially when I can easily see myself loving the song if it wasn't for this glaring issue. Well anyway, with Fury being the last of the D tier songs in this mod, we can now move on to the C tiers. These songs are definitely much more solid tracks overall, but I either have one small critique with them that prevents me from liking them, or I simply just can't click with them at all, no matter how hard I try.
If you can finish this, you're coming with me.
Yes, you're seeing this right. I do think the tutorial is better than any of the songs in D tier. While it is simplistic in nature and is also the shortest song in this mod, this track has a lot of charm to it. I like the parts where GF does the classic left, right, up, down. Sure, they're incredibly basic melodies, but I still believe they have a bit of catchiness to them. I think her switching to a normal singing part is cool in concept, but is very bare bones in execution. Granted, I shouldn't be expecting more from the song that is literally called Tutorial Warm-Up Mix, but that does mean it's not going to fare well against the other songs in this mod that actually have engaging melodies. I do enjoy GF's chromatic a lot. It's similar to BF's, but is more feminine, which is perfect for her. Thankfully, there is a song we'll get to later that does an excellent job utilizing it. Lastly, the instrumental. I like how it combines sounds from the base game with things like the coin sound effect and the barking of chain chomps. I also adore the Super Mario World sound font and some of the instruments as well. Overall, I really appreciate how much of a vibe this song is. It allows the track to have its own identity that is widely different from the rest of the OST, while also serving as a good prelude to the main week and a great representation of the more wholesome aspect of BF and GF's relationship. Crowned. Yeah, I know people are going to be shocked that this song is this low, but hear me out for a second. While this song is not one of my favorites for this mod, I do still have plenty of praises for it. For starters, the main melody of this track is incredible. I love how overall bouncy this part is, and the way those slide notes are incorporated into the main motif is extremely satisfying. While the other parts of the song are good too, they just don't hit as hard as the main chorus. Next, the instrumental. That bass that plays throughout the track is such an earworm, especially at the beginning. The use of sound effects from the new Super Mario Bros. Games adds so much charm to the song, and the inclusion of the iconic ba samples are just perfect. So you might be asking, why don't I like this song? Well, it's due to two things. For one, Bowsette's chromatic. While they're nowhere near as bad as Fury Bowser's vocals, hers are a bit too scratchy for my liking. Don't get me wrong, there are way worse chromatics in other FNF mods, but this one is definitely not my cup of tea. Second, I'm not a huge fan of this key change. It's at the very tail end of the song, and it just repeats the same melody that plays right before it, making it feel completely redundant. That being said, I was not expecting a Bowsette song to sound this good, and I can completely understand why this would be someone's favorite, along with the next entry on this list.
I can build another castle, but you can't build another princess.
Rapland. Man, oh man, was this one super close to having been one of my favorites. While it is my least favorite of the 4 songs included in its respective poll, I was surprised with how poorly it did. For starters, just the concept of the song being based on the Mario Super Show is already super cool, and it honestly turned out way better than I could have expected. King Koopa sounds amazing. Not only does his chromatic fit perfectly, but it works well with the calmer rhythms of the song. Speaking of which, the melodies here are great, being sung at just the right tempo to where they sound super groovy and expertly carry that 90s rap vibe the track is clearly going for. But the crown jewel of this song is once again the instrumental. The combination of the specific instruments used here, in tangent with the various Mario sound effects, replicates the style of the original cartoon's music to the T. Now, again, you might be wondering what is keeping me from liking this song. Well, I feel it is a bit too repetitive. After both Koopa and BF sing all their melodies the first time around, the song kind of just repeats those same singing parts with very little differences between them. And given that the tone of this track is quite calm, it leads me to start losing interest by the second go around. I really do think if it included 1 or 2 more additional melodies that were completely unique from the rest of the song, it would give the track the push it needs for it to be really good. Now, with that said, it's time to say farewell to the C tier, and say hello to the B tier. Now we're getting to the songs I actually do like from this mod. Oh, and when I say B tier, these songs are realistically a high B tier. Like, these songs were incredibly close to being in the A tier, but I felt that they just didn't quite reach that level of greatness. And also because these songs are very similar in terms of their quality.
Well, you can't play music with a piece of paper!
Dog-eared. Before I began working on this ranking, I never really saw anyone talk about this one. But judging from the comments during the polls, it's clear that I'm not the only one that thinks this song is really good, much to my relief. Bowser's chromatic is once again the same one that was used in Flames in So Long, as well as 4 other songs in this mod that I'll talk about later. But seeing as how I enjoy these vocals, I don't mind this inclusion here one bit. And like those other songs, the Koopa King still sounds really good. In fact, this is probably my favorite use of the regular chromatic in this mod. I also really adore the instrumental here. That piano is so good! I am genuinely stunned with how beautiful it sounds in this song. Like, I seriously cannot put into words how amazing it is. It's just that good. Those violins are also lovely to listen to as well. And the sound of the airship's cannons firing to the beat of the music is also a wonderful detail. The melodies here are utterly fantastic. They are incredibly bouncy and filled with lots of energy. I also just really enjoy how both Bowser and BF use them. You have your usual duets where one will sing the primary motif while the other's the backing chorus, but there are other times, especially during the more calmer moments in the song, where one character will sing a melody, and then the other character will chime in at the tail end of their opponent's turn. It allows the song to have a consistent momentum throughout it, and prevents the track from losing its liveliness during those more mellow parts. The key change at the end of the song is glorious. It takes everything I already love about the song and makes it all the more energetic. I shouldn't be surprised that a song based on Paper Bowser ended up here, considering that the team behind this is also responsible for that Origami King mod. And while I haven't looked into that mod yet myself, if that OST is anything like dog-eared, I'll happily check it out when a new update for it releases.
You almost ended my...
Shell Shocker. This is my favorite song from the main week, and it's not even close. While the tutorial was basically the prelude to the week, Shell Shocker is honestly the perfect introduction for what is to come from not only the first 3 songs, but all of Infernal Bout as a whole. From beginning to end, this track perfectly embodies the whole Bowser aesthetic, which, given what I said in the intro of this video, is right up my alley, even more so in this case, since Shell Shocker does a fantastic job capturing the style of Bowser's main theme from 3D World, which is up there as one of my favorite themes for the Koopa King in the entire series. So hearing those super jazzy instruments play throughout the song was nothing short of a treat. But not even the instrumental can surpass the greatness that is the glorious rendition of the World Bowser motif. The way it plays as the choir chimes in is nothing short of pure awesomeness. Top it off with a Bowser chromatic that I've sung nothing but praises for this whole video so far, and this song has the whole package. That being said, I will admit this song doesn't try to hide the fact that the reference is the main highlight of the track. While the other melodies are a bop, they don't reach the heights of that iconic motif, to the point that the song feels a bit too dependent on it. Do I think it's a big issue? No, absolutely not. It's the main focus of the song for a reason, and a damn good one at that. I mean, just listen to it. Ain't no way I'm gonna resist dancing to this part. This song is truly an earworm, and it deserves the immense amount of popularity it gets. But why stop at one Shell Shocker when you can have 2?
He does exactly what I do, but better.
Shell Shocker D-Side. Of all the songs I was expecting to see in this mod, the last one I was thinking would show up was a D-Sides remix. If you want to know my general thoughts on D-Side songs, the gist of it is I only really like them if they either improve upon or are different enough from the song they're based on, to the point where I prefer the remix over the original. This specific remix mostly falls into the latter. If there's one thing this song does outright better than the original Shell Shocker, is that it has more catchy melodies that can stand on their own without having to rely on the 3D World reference. Speaking of which, while that motif is still used in the song, it's definitely not as much of a highlight as it is in the regular Bowser song. On the subject of the Koopa King, or lack thereof, Bowser is interesting. While I do at times wish the character for this song was an actual Mario character, like say maybe Bowser's brother or Midbis, his chromatic is still quite good, and it further adds to the distinction between both songs. I also like how the instrumental uses a lot more chiptune, and the instruments like the trumpet and saxophones, while they still carry that jazzy tone of the original, sound a tad more serious here. I also really like the use of the level clear motif at the end, as it gives the track a bit more of a finality to it, especially since it's not long after the main event of the song. Speaking of which, it's time to talk about the rapping section. This is easily one of my favorite lyrical sections in all of FNF. Considering how I know practically nothing about Bowser as a character, the lyrics do a good job portraying him as someone who is quite cocky, but is still a fearsome enemy and not just some pushover, and this feeling is further emphasized with that beautiful choir harmonizing in the background. I love how he's actually rapping for several turns, rather than just singing one time like in Too Slow D-Side or in Untold Loneliness. Lastly, I think it's just a really cool detail that he references the titles of various other songs in the mod. While I don't think this song has the highs of the actual Shell Shocker, this remix is way too good and offers so much more than the original song ever did, to which I say it deserves to be placed higher on this list. Rage Party. Oh boy, do I have a lot to talk about here. Well, to start, Rage Party is similar to Shell Shocker in that it is heavily based on another official Bowser theme, with this track's instrumental replicating the style of Bowser's Rage stage, while also greatly referencing the original song's main motifs in its primary melodies. And yeah, while I do think the song relies a bit too much on these references, if I'm being perfectly honest, I kinda like it more than the original theme from Wonder. Rage Party just has this intensity to it that I absolutely love. Hell, this is basically what I wanted Fury to sound like, if the song actually had a good chromatic. Speaking of which, even though Castle Bowser's chromatic is basically just the regular Bowser vocals with a filter over them, it still sounds quite good, especially whenever the Koopa King has to sing really fast. All the melodies in the song, both the original ones and the references, are an absolute bop. The back and forth between Bowser and BF really do make the song feel like a serious and intense battle. I also especially love the duets in this track. There are times when BF is singing the primary melody while Bowser is just pumping up the crowd to the beat of the song. It's a small thing but adds so much to the concert-like setting of the track. The rock-like style of the instrumental further emphasizes this feeling too. And whilst on the subject of the instruments, take a wild guess at what can be heard in the background of this song that makes me love it even more. That's right, it's another glorious use of an amazing choir. What I absolutely love about this one in particular is just how haunting it is as it repeatedly sings chants throughout the entire duration, adding even more to the overall imposing presence of Bowser in this song. Now, so far, it's clear why I already like this song, but considering how most of my praises for it can be applied to my other favorites in this mod, you might be wondering, why does this one get to make it into the top 3? Well, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, literally. The use of Elephant BF in this song is ingenious. First off, the way the song builds up suspense and tension right before the transformation makes the moment when it actually happens stand out so much more. Additionally, it allows the song to keep going without it getting stale, carrying the hype and energy of the track for even longer. As for Elephant BF himself, I love the fact that a trumpet now plays whenever he sings. It's such a simple addition, yet it's a perfect callback to how songs in Mario Wonder add trumpets to its music whenever the elephant fruit is equipped. Now, with all the praises I have for Rage Party out of the way, there is something quite big about it that's holding it back for me. It's the second phase. While it's cool in concept, and I do enjoy that fade-in that allows the song to ramp back up in intensity, it's essentially more of the same stuff from the first phase, except in a different key. I really wish this part had something new, because at least then, it makes the length of the song being 4.5 minutes feel more warranted. Well anyway, that's all the songs in B tier. Now it's time for the one singular A tier of this mod. But before I move on, I just want to quickly say something. No, Rage Party is not a cover. I've seen too many people claim that this song and others from this mod are just the original Bowser themes with FNF vocal slap on top of them, and that's just not true in the slightest. Yes, this mod's OST does take a lot from its source material, but by no means are those songs from the games identical to the ones in this mod. While tracks like Shell Shocker, Fury, Rage Party, and the song I have yet to talk about are filled with references, there are still huge portions of each of those songs that are completely original. It just frustrates me how so many people are willing to make such an accusation, as it not only creates an unfair judgment towards this OST, but it also creates this false narrative that the composers couldn't be bothered to make something original, and that just isn't right. Lethal Lava Cruise. When I first listened to this song, even though I liked it, I thought it was gonna be on the weaker end of my favorites for the mod. Then came the time when I ranked it for the top 400, and oh my lord, did I end up loving this song. This is another song that uses the regular Bowser chromatic incredibly well, So much so, it is my second favorite use of the vocals, right behind Dog Ear. The instrumental is also fantastic. I love the chiptune used in this song. It's clearly trying to reflect the style of the older Mario games, but interestingly enough, it doesn't really use any of those games' sound fonts. Rather, it uses a custom one where it still has this arcade vibe to it, but it gives the song its own identity that isn't simply just a retro Mario-styled song. I also love how the deeper instruments are subtly played underneath the higher pitched ones, giving the song a fitting boss fight feel to it. But the best part about this track is easily the melodies. Every single turn is filled with so much life and energy, and Bowser's chromatic gives each motif that extra impact that helps the song resonate even more. I adore the way Bowser and BF repeatedly chain off each other's turns before the two have their duets. It allows the flow of the song to continue effortlessly without any sort of stops or interruptions. Also, that one point in the song where one character sings those slide notes in the backing chorus as the other sings the main melody is immensely satisfying to listen to. I think the one part that the song could improve upon is the part after the bridge collapses. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, I just wish it was more intense, and longer, and had a faster tempo. Regardless, this song is still utterly amazing, and it deserves all the praise it gets and then some. I seriously can't think of another song in this OST that is as high of a quality as this. Well, except for one song. That being the only S tier that this mod has to offer.
Showtime!
Dark Immunity. Let's be real, you all knew this was getting the top spot. It's the most popular song in the mod, and for good reason. There is a lot to unpack here, so I'm just going to go through it section by section. Starting with the first phase, we have another song that utilizes the regular Bowser chromatic very well. As for Dark Bowser, I love how his vocals are basically a deeper version of the ones used for his normal counterpart. It not only fits him, for obvious reasons, but it allows the song to have its share of low notes while Bowser sings the more higher pitched ones, especially when they duet, which they do a lot in this song. Speaking of melodies, I especially love the way the Koopa Kings just bounce off each other throughout this song. It perfectly represents the two characters taking part in this super intense battle, where neither one is planning on backing down anytime soon. Like Shell Shocker and Rage Party, this track is another one that is directly inspired by an official Bowser theme, with this one obviously being based on the ever iconic In the Final song. Because of this, some of that song's motifs are referenced in here, which I so very much love and appreciate listening to. The instrumental is amazing for two specific reasons. For one, it's essentially a beautiful rendition of the original In the Final song, and considering how much I adore that theme, hearing it here puts the biggest smile on my face. The second reason is because, once again, it incorporates a choir. That chanting they do in the background really adds so much to the finality of this song's tone. It's just overall a perfect instrumental. But then we get to my favorite part of this track, the phase with BF and GF fighting against the Dark Star Corps. First off, that piano that plays right before the section starts is just beautiful, acting as a perfect shift in tone for this song. The rest of the instrumental during this part is no slouch either. I love how it incorporates both the sound fonts and sound effects of Bowser's Inside Story, and the inclusion of that guitar before the part ends is an excellent hype builder as it transitions back to the fight with the two Bowsers. Dark Star Corps' chromatic is perfect here. It's what I expect a Fawful chromatic to sound like, but it still has this monstrous and evil tone to it, perfectly encapsulating how much of a threat he is in this fight. As for GF, like I said before when talking about the tutorial song, I really like her chromatic, and since Dark Immunity is an actual song with tons of melodies, her vocals can finally shine here. The melodies here are fantastic, being incredibly climactic with tons of varying rhythms. I love how whenever Dark Star Corps sings, BF repeats half of that turn, while GF immediately follows up with the rest, making them literally complement each other. The tone of this part is so much more hopeful compared to the sections with Bowser, as if it's portraying BF and GF as this small glimmer of light, the only things that could put a stop to these dark forces. The song then builds up in intensity once more, and it shifts back to Bowser's phase for the final stretch of the song. It's basically the same as the first part but in a different key, though it's just all around better, containing a lot more energy and emotion, which makes the song even more beautiful to listen to. The way the choir chants as Bowser delivers that final punch to Dark Bowser is just a genius way to cap off the song. Overall, this track is just perfect. It takes everything I love about the other songs in this mod and mixes them together into this absolute spectacle of a finale. I genuinely can't think of a more perfect pick for the number 1 spot on this list than this song. And that was Infernal Bout. Again, I really like this mod, and I find the overall quality of this OST to be quite strong. Heck, even nowadays I still find its soundtrack to be much better than plenty of other big mods that have released in the recent months. There's just a charm to it that makes me love it so much, which in turn made this video all the more fun to make. Anyway, here's the entire tier list. Like I said, even the worst that this mod has to offer still has its fair share of positives. And yeah, that's it. I want to thank you all for watching my very first in-depth FNF ranking video, and I look forward to making more of these in the future. Speaking of which...